Crooked Hillary Clinton is the most anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment candidate ever to run for office. And as I said before, she wants to abolish the Second Amendment. She wants to take your guns away.
Next on Newsmax Prime, Donald Trump takes rhetorical aim at Hillary Clinton, and the NRA responds by giving him its endorsement for president. Earlier today, it sounded as if the Donald was endorsing Newt Gingrich for vice president, as he admitted the former speaker is on his short list. And when it comes to listing Newt's favorite books, both Speaker Gingrich and AOL co-founder Steve Case like Alvin Toffler's The Third Wave. In fact, Steve likes it so much, he gave his new book that same title. We'll talk about the new third wave ahead in Hour 2 of Newsmax Prime. Good evening and welcome to our second hour of Newsmax Prime on this Friday evening. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Of prime interest this hour, that Louisville Lovefest for Donald Trump, courtesy of the NRA. The way I see it, the National Rifle Association may have located its annual convention in Kentucky's largest city, but Trump's speech reminded me of another implement made there. Rhetorically speaking, it's as if Mr. Trump picked up a Louisville slugger and hit a political grand slam. Here's why. It wasn't so much what Trump had to say, it's the way the crowd responded, and more importantly, the way the NRA responded, officially endorsing Trump for president. Though you wouldn't know it if you depended on the coverage of the alphabet networks, the NRA boasts an involved and engaged membership, and this year it is involved, engaged, and enthusiastic. There was NRA support for John McCain in 2008, but it was lukewarm, and it wasn't much better for Mitt Romney in 2012. But this year NRA members are all in for Trump, and that support could make the difference in this race for the White House. At least that's the way I see it. When longtime political observers see this impassioned group of voters, they may scratch their heads because, as John Bachman reports, Trump's position on guns has evolved.
Well, it has, J.D. The NRA, as you mentioned, gave Trump their endorsement today, but it's not like they were really going to endorse anybody else. Still, even without that endorsement, there is a lot of overlap between those evangelical voters and NRA members, and Trump has already been a favorite of that group already.
A hero's welcome for Donald Trump at the NRA annual meetings in Louisville, Kentucky.
And America truly will be great again.
The billionaire says he would get rid of gun-free zones and that guns could have stopped the San Bernardino terror attack.
If we had guns on the other side, it wouldn't have been that way.
Trump also reminded the crowd of what's at stake this election.
The only way to save our Second Amendment is to vote for a person that you all know named Donald Trump.
He says Hillary Clinton wants to disarm vulnerable Americans and abolish the Second Amendment.
It is just too easy for people to reach for a gun to solve their problems.
Clinton has already been using guns as a wedge issue against Bernie Sanders during the Democratic primary. This weekend, the former First Lady will again join the mother of Trayvon Martin in Florida and give a speech focused on families who have lost children to gun violence. A preview of the gun debate this fall.
I've been a member for a long time, and my boys are members. And
like a lot of other issues, Trump's stance on gun control has fluctuated over the years. Here he is with Larry King in 1999.
I like better than nobody has them. But that's not going to happen, Larry. So as long as that's not going to happen, I say you have to be able to have a gun.
Also, after the Sandy Hook shooting that left 20 kids and 6 adults dead, Trump tweeted, quote, "President Obama spoke for me and every American in his remarks in Newtown, Connecticut."
And we're going to have to come together and take meaningful action to prevent more tragedies like this, regardless of the politics.
The tragedy led to several unsuccessful attempts at gun control legislation, including the Toomey Manchin background check bill, which the NRA opposed. But now, of course, Trump's much closer aligned with the NRA and its millions of supporters who he'll need to defeat Hillary Clinton.
I will not let you down. Remember that.
Well, the last 2 days have again shown us Trump's ability to deal with different factions of the GOP. Just last night, he was making jokes about Oreo cookies at a fundraiser for Chris Christie, who, of course, has a poor relationship with the NRA. Today, he was welcomed, Trump was anyway, with open arms by the NRA. J.D.?
Well, John, we're going to have more on that calorie shaming where Trump goes after Chris Christie a bit later, but we want you to know that we welcome your calls over this next hour. Call us at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Donald Trump and the NRA. What do you think of his performance? How do you think he would act as president in the Oval Office? For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined in this second hour by a great panel right here on the anchor desk. Former Chief of Staff to Congressman Walter B. Jones of North Carolina, it's Glen Downs. And from Newsmax, Washington, my former congressional colleague, the gentleman from Illinois, Michael Patrick Flanagan. And Skyping in from Maryland for a second appearance tonight. He's on both bills of this doubleheader, or this double feature. The erudite economist from the University of Maryland, the bow tie festooned Peter Morisi. It's good to have you all here this evening. And gentlemen, we are going to start with the big event politically. Here is the legislative director of the NRA earlier today in Louisville.
To get the endorsement, believe me, is a fantastic honor. And I just said to Wayne and I just said to Chris, I will not let you down. Remember that.
Well, actually, that was Donald Trump accepting the endorsement that came from Chris Cox and Wayne LaPierre and the National Rifle Association. Glen Downs, can we overstate the importance of this early endorsement?
Well, I think as John Bachman indicated, this was not a great surprise, but I think the fact that it came this early was part of the effort to nail down the Republican base, the conservative base for Mr. Trump, just like naming some potential Supreme Court nominees. By going ahead and nailing down the NRA endorsement and gun owners and Second Amendment supporters endorsement, that's going to help solidify that Republican base that still hasn't quite completely healed from the primary process.
Well, let's go to the guy who knows the Chicago way, Michael Patrick Flanagan, now the president of Flanagan Consulting. Boy, it'd be great if Mike were president. We wouldn't have any of these problems, but you're back in the private sector, Brother Flanagan, and I'm just kind of interested. As a Chicago guy, now located in Washington, you know, it used to be a fear that in the suburbs you had to tiptoe around the Second Amendment. Not in the age of Obama, right?
Right. I'll tell you, Glenn is so right. You have the best guest, JD, and Glenn is so correct. This is about nailing down the right flank. And it's hard for Eric Erickson and the other Never Trump people to continue to mule and whine when lobbyists and organizations as politically astute as the NRA, whatever else you might want to say about them, they are political geniuses, and have them pick a winner at this point only gives gravitas to Trump in a belief that he's going to keep his word on this and every issue. So I think it's absolutely designed to nail down the right, and Trump is brilliant to show up and warmly endorse it. Unlike your other two mentioned earlier, Romney and McCain, he had almost backhanded reception of that endorsement. He's gone down and kissed him on both cheeks and said, I love you guys, I want to help you, and I'm going to be with you. And they are going to show up in the same measure for him.
And yet, Peter Morisi, there is a sense of irony because of previous pronouncements from Trump that John Bachman outlined. Yet, the NRA sounded so enthusiastic today. Is it possible to really change positions fairly quickly and get the kind of support that Trump enjoys?
Think about what he said earlier. He said if we could abolish guns, the terrorists in San Bernardino wouldn't have them. And then he went on, he also talked about the fact that in San Bernardino, Americans were helpless in the face of terrorists who had automatic weapons. What he's basically saying is in a perfect world, there would be no guns. But we don't live in a perfect world, so we need to keep and bear arms. It's what the founders understood, and he has come to understand it in light of recent events. I mean, you know, I have been to Paris many times, and the only people there that have guns openly are the guards in front of the embassies and government buildings, and they have big guns, by the way, just like in Luxembourg. Ordinary folks can't get them. So when there's a terrorist act, they're completely defenseless. That's absurd. That's his position. You know, change his position. And we all need to rethink what we think in light of the events before us. And that's what he's done. Hillary, you see, is an ideologue. She can't change her mind. She can never let go. She can never admit that maybe a position she had in the past was wrong.
And I got to tell you, it sounded so lame.
She's that nutritionist who tells you have to have 3 portions of fresh fruit and 4 vegetables a day.
Now wait a minute. That's Michelle Obama's thing with school lunches, Peter. We're not going to let you have that. Look, I understand. Listen, let's let.
And if you're not pure enough and don't support her, if you're a woman, you're going to go to hell.
Madeleine Albright. Well, she's not on the phone, but from Syracuse, New York, we've got Paul calling in. Paul, welcome to Newsmax Prime.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you. What did you think of Mr. Trump today in Louisville?
Oh, I think it was excellent. Now, I'm a lifetime NRA member, and I'm a lifetime member of the Golden Eagles. That's the cutting edge. So I think he's a fine guy.
All right. And your neighbors feel the same way?
I think so. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's going to carry New York State.
Wow. You heard it from Paul in Syracuse. Paul, thanks. We appreciate the call. It'd be interesting if that could happen, because I remember back in the day, Rudy Giuliani, when he contemplated a race with Hillary Clinton, he said, New Yorkers might elect me mayor, but that never, I couldn't win the city against Hillary, and we never saw that race come to fruition. Let's take another call, about a minute 30 remaining. From Pomona, California, Blaine is on the line. Blaine, welcome to our program. Apparently,
hello.
There's Blaine. Blaine, very quickly, your take on Trump, the NRA, and this presidential campaign.
Well, the NRA is a great, group of guys. They, guys and girls. There's a couple crazy people, just like in every, huge group you have. Like extremists and stuff like that. But I mean, overall, the people are really great. They're just supporting our Second Amendment. And Donald Trump, I think he is just jumping on the NRA, trying to get some more, voters and Twitterers, Twitter followers.
Yeah, but the bottom line is getting votes. And I guess the question is this, Blaine, does he have your vote in November?
Yeah, no, definitely. Donald Trump, I'm on his side and stuff, but he is a businessman, so you gotta watch him, and kind of hold him for his word. I want him to win, but I want him to just not tell everybody what they want to hear.
Yeah, it's interesting. Blaine, you sound like another famous Californian, Ronald Reagan, who said, "Trust but verify." And that's really, when you think about it, that's what politics is. Listen, we are going to have more with our panel. And just this reminder, later this evening, we'll have much more of Donald Trump's NRA speech. You can see all of this again at 10 and 11 o'clock Eastern, 7 and 8 o'clock Pacific, right here on Newsmax TV. And you heard from our callers. Maybe you want to be a caller. Why don't you get on the phone and weigh in at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Back with our panel and your calls after this.